The day will come eventually where we don't talk about rivals being in shambles, but guess what? Both Michigan State and Ohio State, the fans, even some players, are continuing to be in meltdown mode. Michigan got some transfer commits today, including a former Michigan State player, even though a Michigan guy goes to the other side of the rivalry. And certainly that's had some reactions. We're going to talk about the incoming transfers as well as the Ohio State reaction to the trailer reveal from the EA Sports College Football 25 video game, because it's all priceless. We're going to talk about all of that on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And it has been, if you are a Michigan fan, it is a fun day for you, because even though you've seen a Michigan player, someone who was celebrated a good year and a half ago, Samaj Bridgman, the linebacker, 4-star from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ends up transferring to Michigan State. I'm sure a lot of you do care and are putting on a little bit of a brave face on social media, but I do like to see that there is a concerted effort of like, hey, we ain't going to shed any tears. Best of luck to you, Samaj. Go be great. That's all I'm seeing from Michigan fans on social media. I'm sure there are some that are certainly upset. It isn't the same as Jaden Mangham, the Birmingham, Michigan Groves safety who was the starter at safety for Michigan State last year, coming to the other side and committing to Michigan. Now, I did see a comment because I posted the difference in the fan bases and how they've reacted to each commitment. The Michigan fans wished Samaj well, as I said, and the Michigan State fans did not do so that much with Jaden Mangham. I did see a comment on my thread. I'm not replying to it on Twitter. I'm replying to it here. It said, but you've talked so bad about Michigan State secondary. Yeah, the secondary as a whole. A secondary is not made up of one person. There have been times where there has been good play. Now, I can't speak very specifically to Jaden Mangham because I haven't exactly paid a ton of attention to him. But it has 4 interceptions on the year from last year. Michigan bringing in Amir Hall, who has 5 interceptions, bringing in Wesley Walker. We're all gonna mess up and call him Wes Welker at some point. We've gotten used to that. But Wesley Walker from Tennessee, who had some really good stats as well. They're at least accumulating a pretty solid group on paper. Now, again, I didn't pay a ton of attention to Mangham. I do know that there were moments where he was both really good and had some lapses. But I am enjoying seeing a lot of the Michigan fans trolling and saying this is by far the best safety that Michigan State's ever had, and things of that nature, just drawing them in their ire that much more. But it is a positive move for Michigan, because keeping in mind, I don't know if he's going to start or if it's going to be Quentin Johnson, right? You could also say it could be Wesley Walker. He had he was a starting safety at Tennessee as well before he committed to Louisville and then ended up in Ann Arbor. So there's certainly bodies there, right? Because you've got Makari Page, you've got Quentin Johnson, you've got Jaden Mangham, you got Wesley Walker, you got Brandon Hillman. Zeke Berry is also a safety, but more likely to play nickel. So you've got at least a really, really good looking room in terms of rotation. And you feel like if you trust your coaching staff, you've got a guy in Lamar Morgan who used to coach the position, who can kind of coach them up, right? A bit. You hope. You certainly have to trust your coaching staff will sit there and look and say, here's what I can fix. I've seen what you're able to do. But these guys have playing experience. And that is a difference, obviously, between Samaj Bridgman and Jaden Mangham. Now, sometimes not playing and being really good can be a completely different thing, but you can't get better at football except by playing football, as Jim Harbaugh used to always say. Nonetheless, it has been a glorious day if you are a Michigan fan, because not only have they hit the transfer portal hard in the last couple of days, bringing in 3 commitments, a 4th is expected sometime in the next 24 hours from me saying this, probably more in like 12, 15 hours from me saying this. So they're not done yet. But after how everything kind of went with the transfer portal, even though these aren't big names, these are serviceable guys, right? Amir Hall, FCS level All-American, guy who was an absolute ball hawk. Because these aren't your star players. These are going to be role players, right? Between him, Wes Walker, you're just continuing to build out what looks like a really just solid defense. And I think that's exciting. But I think even more so, you just love to see some of the things that are just being said, right? Like, you got Justin Thind over at RCMB being like, we'll take the guy who wants to be here and all of this kind of stuff, which is like, okay, well, we know where what you're thinking here, right? Like, it's really no bridge off of, not bridge, thinking of Samaj Bridgman. It's no skin off of my back that Samaj Bridgman wants to go play for MSU. There have been times where it's felt like, oh man, how can you go and play for a rival? But things have certainly changed. And maybe it's because we've become more accustomed to the transfer portal. We've seen a Roddy Gale come over from Ohio State. Michigan fans have been accustomed to it for a little while. Seeing guys go elsewhere. Seeing a Justin Boren. Now, I remember when that happened, I was just coming out of school at Michigan. And it was just shocking that anyone could go from one side of the rivalry to the other. Then we've seen others since. Ben Van Sumeren. We've seen... we just saw Joey Velasquez go. We've seen Andrew Dockich. We've seen a lot of guys go from one to the other. We've seen Greg Madison go. So now suddenly we're just seeing, weirdly, an influx of guys coming in. You know, Roddy Gale coming over from Ohio State. You've got, do I have that name right? I'm blanking right now. Tony Alford coming over from Ohio State. But with the Michigan State of it all, yeah, they're not having a good time. I implore you to go on social media because they are calling him everything that they can. Benedict Arnold, a snake, Spartan dog, not for life. Lots of expletives in there. Some people trying to remind themselves he's just a kid, just a kid. Whereas Michigan fans, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you going on social media and just saying, be great, man. Be great, Samaj. Best of luck to you in 11 of the 12 games. I hope it turns out as everything that you had hoped for. So for everyone who says Michigan's classless, social media posters are calling Jaden Mangham classless for going on the other side of the rivalry. As far as what I've seen, it's all class on the Michigan side. So keep that up, and I'm sure there will be some rival fans here in the comments of this here show. Crazy people who decided to tune in here that are going to have their words. Have at it. I don't read the comments usually. Every now and again when I'm publishing, I'll look at the dashboard and see a few. But otherwise, go nuts. Have at it. Do your worst. Let's talk about Ohio State. Because they are also in shambles. I don't have a lot to say about the Michigan State. They're just crying. But the Ohio State in shambles continues to entertain in ways that Michigan State cannot even fathom. It's a different league. Because there's delusions. I won't even say delusions of grandeur. They've had actual grandeur to some degree. They don't necessarily have as many championships as you'd think, based off of listening to their fan base talk. They've got just as many in the last 25 years as Michigan does. They'll sit there and say, oh, but a half in 1997. Okay, whatever. It was still a championship. It's just because things went down the way they did. Whatever. Still the same amount of championships. You got 2002, 2014. Your last one was over a decade ago. And then they delude themselves, though. They do have delusions of grandeur. Because they delude themselves. They get to that point where they think, you're right, they're celebrating all their offseason championships. And then something happens and they go nuts. And this time around, even the Ohio State athletics social media department chimed in. let's talk about all of that. The continued shambles of the Buckeyes continuing to just lament everything Michigan and the treatment that they get nationally. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But before we do, as you know, there's a lot of amazing events coming up because it is late spring, early summer. You're going to have concerts to go to, Major League Baseball, but right now you got NBA and NHL playoffs. And the best way to get in the door is through Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off with killer last-minute deals. All-in prices, views from your seat, their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. So many things that make it so great. I love the seat views, but here's the great part. We did this in January when the Lions were in the playoffs. It was $1,000 to get in the door. And then I look on Gametime right here live on the show and found seats, not standing room only, but seats for $400 on the Gametime app. And they're guaranteed tickets, right? So that's just what makes it amazing. So again, the seat views are my favorite part, all in pricing. So you know up front what you're paying. You don't get that sticker shock after you hit view cart and go to checkout and find out tickets are 4,000 times more than you thought they were going to be. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I don't know what it's like where you are. If you're in the state of Michigan, Southeast Michigan in particular. But I knew it was going to be a later show. I went out to dinner with Sarah, and it was beautiful and sunny in Highland, Milford area. And driving home, and it's just that like sun behind you, dark clouds in front of you. And I'm like, okay. I'm north, right where those clouds are. It's going to be stormy. Got home, got the cushions in from the new patio chairs that I just picked up yesterday. Got them inside, and then it started storming. Now that used to not be an ordeal, right? So this is like 7 o'clock. This is 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago from when I got home, and normally the puppy Zuri, she was always like, storm, heck yeah, I'm in. Like that was her stance on everything. Heck yeah, I'm in. Fireworks, heck yeah, I'm in. I'm hoping that's still the case. It was last year. I took her for a walk at night on the 4th of July, and she loved it. She was just going nuts. Anytime she hears loud noises, she was always been like, yes, deal me in, whatever that is. I'm running towards the danger. Well, something's changed because she climbs up on me. I was writing an article real quick. It had just started storming like maybe a minute beforehand. I'm writing an article on Samaj Bridgman. She climbs up on me and she's shaking and everything. I give her a treat so she gets excited about something, and she's still just moping around, like just terrified of whatever is happening out there. So delayed doing the podcast quite as early as I wanted to until the storms died down enough. Even as I sit now, I can't hear the rain, but when we started the show, I could hear the rain, could hear the thunder. I think it's finally dying down, which is why we are doing such a late show today. Tomorrow we will do the mailbag, so I was right when I said that I put out the questions on Wednesday. The chances are we would end up doing it over the weekend. That is going to be the case. And so we'll have 4 this week is the goal of the plan. Nonetheless, it's good. Ohio State, what you doing, baby? What you doing? I'm going to pull this up because I already had it up. I don't need to pull it up. EA Sports released their official reveal of the 2025 college football game. Long awaited. It's been 11 years, essentially, of waiting. I still have the 2014 for a PlayStation 3, even though I do not own a PlayStation 3 any longer. Actually, I think I do. I think it's at my mom's still, sitting in a pile of stuff. But nonetheless, the official trailer reveal, if you didn't see it, and I'm sure there are very few of you who did not, features a lot of Michigan highlights. No Ohio State highlights, just Brutus the Buckeye banging on his head. And an Ohio State lowlight, which is very true to life, by the way. Donovan Edwards making Lathan Ransom look pedestrian. Then you've got Michigan doing the sideline photo, turnover buffs. You've got Donovan Edwards hosting what looks to be the Rose Bowl trophy at the end. That's the end of the game reveal. You also have, without Ohio State being shown, Illinois hoisting the Illini Buck trophy with the score behind it saying Illinois 52, Ohio State 42. This elicited, certainly not that, probably not the Rose Bowl trophy, probably not the turnover buffs, but probably the Lathan Ransom being dusted, much like in 2022, gets past Ransom. The Ohio State Buckeyes Twitter account posts, they retweet the EA Sports official Twitter post reveal with the video. And they say, a certain clip in here felt unnecessary. If I'm Ohio State, I just pretend nothing happened. But no, they're all going nuts. I do want to pull up Tony Gerdeman. He's the host of the Buckeye Weekly podcast. He used to be the main writer for the Ozone. Now he's the lead beat writer for Buckeye Huddle. He had some words earlier as well. And he's not the only one. There's a bunch of Buckeyes who have weighed in on all of this. Now, let's see if he still has it up. Because I'm not seeing it. He had a tweet. That does not seem like it is up anymore. I'm guessing he deleted it. Unless I'm just not seeing it. No, here we go. The trailer for EA Sports College Football 25 features an Ohio State player being pushed to the ground, Brutus punching himself in the head, and Illinois hoisting the it's the Illini Buck, not the Illini Buck, the Illini Buck trophy after a 52-42 win over the Buckeyes in Columbus this July, and it shows an Ohio State fan doing target practice with the game. So that's not all. There's something else. That's not the one I thought I was going to read. But we got another one here. Sorry, I'm taking my time. Because apparently I don't remember what. Oh, that was the one. There's just been a bunch of different reactions to that. And the reason why you're seeing so much hand-wringing over it, and obviously the inside job, right? There's people posting, there's 29 Michigan alums who work at EA Sports, and expose of, I think this was on Barstool, like, one of the lead developer of the game is a Michigan fan, yada, yada, yada. Because here's the thing, they'll be able to play their game as Ohio State and do whatever they want to do. They're upset with the media promotions at the beginning. Now, it is bizarre because Ohio State is considered one of the premier programs in college football. But to the victor go the spoils. Michigan has won the national championship. So therefore, yes, it makes sense that they would have a lot of lead billing. All the playoff teams from last year. Well, I shouldn't say all. I didn't see any Washington. But Texas gets a lot of play on there. You see Quinn Ewers. Alabama, you see Jalen Milroe and a couple clips there. It makes sense that the teams that have that last year were kind of the biggest in the sport. Washington probably should be on there, but they don't have a lot of big name players on their team at the moment because they all went to the draft or transferred. It makes sense that that's how that would go, right? But the reason why Ohio State fans are so upset and why they're on social media just lamenting the heck out of this game that they've been waiting for years is because they're not the game's special little darling. And after this offseason champion, they've got 6 offseason championships so far. They're just piling them up. All this hardware that they keep creating, they're just The trophy case is getting full, guys. You think Michigan's trophy case from the season looks really nice? Check out the offseason trophy case at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's incredible. I mean, they got Seth McLaughlin in the transfer portal. I mean, they won the transfer portal. They've gotten commitments, spring game attendance, the first ever nationally televised spring game. I mean, it didn't really matter that Michigan did it the next week. They get the trophy because they did it first, right? It's like Michigan inventing the night game. I mean, they invented the nationally televised spring game. So they just are so upset that they're not EA Sports special little boys, right? They thought that's what they thought. They thought that's what they were for everyone. Recognize the offseason championship. Quinshon Judkins is on the deluxe cover, but he's tucked away to the side. How dare they? He should be front and center. He's an all-time Buckeye great. And for those of you who are going to ask me, like, didn't he just transfer over from Ole Miss? None of that matters. Everything he did at Ole Miss, he did while he was a Buckeye. It's like Joe Burrow leaving Ohio State going to LSU, still a Buckeye. If you've ever set foot in the state of Ohio at some point, Buckeye. Which makes it that much more perplexing that they're so upset about Donovan Edwards, because his biggest moments in college football arguably came in their own stadium. Donovan Edwards, Buckeye, one of the great Buckeyes of all time. Let's continue roasting Ohio State because it's fun. Because I know they like to get big mad, and I know that y'all like it, because I got a lot of DMs from some of you today being like, this has been so enjoyable watching them be in shambles. So we're just going to continue roasting them. So we'll do that here in just a moment. Before we do, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and a heck of a lot more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we got a couple more minutes left here. It is... I really wish I could remember who tweeted that, which I've brought up almost every show recently, that the reason why Ohio State fans can't handle reality is because of because their recruiting program, essentially, right? They celebrate all the recruiting things, right? And I remember when it was like that, even as a Michigan fan. I remember when I first got into it. I remember I was working at United Talent Agency. I was just sitting every day in my office, my little cubicle, with MGO blog always had a tab pulled up, and I just refresh it. I didn't even really necessarily know how to go to the MGO board for a little while. But once I did, it's like seeing people commit, and I'm like seeing like 3 stars even, and people are like, yay, you know, which now that doesn't happen. Once Harbaugh came, 3-star, boo. Because I also remember the meltdowns that happened when Kwity Paye and Ronnie Bell and some of the guys who ended up being really great, committed. It's funny. It all kind of depends. I remember when Josh Metellus committed, he was a 2-star at the time, and people were weirdly like, well, if that gets a Devin Bush, then cool. Even though Devin was like a 4-star on some sites, a 3-star on some others at that time. But everyone kind of knew what kind of talent he was. They watched the film. And certainly any fan base that recruits well, you're gonna get a little big in them britches to some degree, right? When Michigan's had good recruiting classes, it's been like, all right, watch out. When these guys matriculate. But more so, it's doom and gloom. Michigan's best class in recent memory is 2018, and that was the worst of the Jim Harbaugh era to that point, outside of 2015. Might be the worst outside of, I think, 2022. Or was it 23? I can't remember. I think 23. Yeah, 23. But I mean, some of those guys, unfortunately, might be really good somewhere else. Like Samaj Bridgman, DJ Waller. But I think Michigan fans have kind of understood a little bit more what we've talked about on this show for years. Development matters. There's a reason why I don't think it's the be-all, end-all. Like, yeah, you need talent. Michigan's got a ton of talent. Michigan's got a couple 5-stars. Donovan Edwards ended up being a 5-star on 24/7 Sports proprietary rankings. Will Johnson was obviously a 5-star. But then there's some guys like Kenneth Grant was a 3-star. Mason Graham, at the time of his commitment, was a 3-star. Kind of blew up. His identification and then development. That matters. At Ohio State, that's not really the case. They just bring in all their 5-stars. And it does not seem like it's working well as a development program, which is why they haven't had quite the success you would expect when you look at these rosters. Now, the roster right now is very talented. I will stay on record until I'm proven wrong, which I might be, that Will Howard is not a significant upgrade on Kyle McCord. Maybe he ends up being. Is running Chip Kelly's system, is it going to be a departure for the players who are there? Are they going to be able to do it? Who knows? Or is it going to still be, we're going to try to fly high? You've got so many wide receivers. It feels like you got to try to fly high, but you also have 2 really, really good running backs. But therein lies the rub. They look at the roster and say, we've got all this star power. There's no way. There's no way that we don't. But I would argue, I'd look at the roster in 2021. I'd look at the roster in 2022. Heck, I'd even look at the roster in like 2019 when they did go to the playoff. I mean, they went in 2022 as well, but when they did go to the playoff in 2019 and lost in the championship. No, they didn't lose in the championship, in the semifinal to Clemson. And say, how did you lose that? Because you had a stacked roster. You had the quarterback, Justin Fields. You had Chris Olave. You had some of the talented wide receivers. You had a dominant defense in 2019, and you still didn't do it. So, the more you understand that Ohio State is lamenting things like video games is because they want to be told they're special and that this is finally their time. That they're the ones who run college football because they've been told that they can do it. That's why Michigan fans are like, you listen, we won the championship. Yes, we would love that again. It probably isn't realistic this year. But if they can go on a run, and heck, especially if they can continue to beat Ohio State, then all is gravy. That doesn't work at Ohio State. They need to be told every single day that they are daddy's special boy. And when they don't get that, they're going to pout. And that's why you're seeing all of the pouting. Michigan State's a different story. They're just miserable. As I've said before, Michigan State is Mac from What's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're going to do a backflip right here, right now, because they do a backflip every day of their life, only to be reminded that they have never done a backflip. That's it. All right, we're going to do the mailbag on Saturday. Got an event tomorrow night, so it will not be a night show. It will be sometime in the early afternoon. So anyway, for this episode, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.